Welcome back to The Sitting Duck. My name is Kay Nickens, and I am the Public Information Officer for the town of Duck. And today we have none other than Mayor Don Kingston joining us to talk to us about what it's like to be mayor in the town. It's not uncommon to see Mayor Kingston out in the community, but in case you haven't met him before, I hope this episode will serve as a way for you to get to know an elected official and learn more about the people side of local government. So, with that being said, welcome Mayor Kingston. Thanks for being here today.
Well, good afternoon, Kay, and thank you for inviting me to do this podcast today. And I'd like to thank you for setting up the podcast for the town of Duck. I think it's a great idea, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think it's a great way, again, to introduce the people side of local government and get to know, the people that sit at the dais. So, again, thanks, and I'm excited to have this conversation because there are some things on here that I'm actually really curious to know. So, you have actually been mayor since 2011, but your tenure with town council goes before that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Surely. Well, let me go back a little bit. When we moved here in 2007, obviously retired, and we decided to get involved with the town. So we started to volunteer, and I got to know the staff and the town manager. And an opening came up in 2009 early for the planning board. And I was approached by the town manager, the director of community development, if I'd be interested in serving on the planning board. They knew a little bit about my background. And I said, yeah, I'd like to look at that opportunity. I had been coming to council meetings, but the planning board was something new to me. So I joined the planning board in March. And that summer in July, a former council member approached me and said, Don, why don't you run for council? There's probably going to be an opening next year. So I said, well, why not? I'd much probably rather be on the council than be on the planning board anyhow. And so I ran in July and was elected in November of 2009. And so I became a council member in December of 2009 and became the mayor pro temp under Dave Wessel, our fourth mayor. And then Dave decided to step down after one term of service to the town. So in 2011, the council, I got reelected to the council, and the council elected me as mayor, and reelected me as mayor in 2013, 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021, and now 2023. So I'm in my seventh term as the mayor of Duck.
That's impressive. And how neat that you start, all you have to do is volunteer, and that's what got you here.
Absolutely. And then my first job volunteering was stuffing envelopes in the old office.
You mentioned when you moved here to Duck, but what initially brought you to Duck? What made you want to make Duck your home?
Well, I think that's a real interesting question. It's an interesting travel to get us here. But I grew up in upstate New York, educated there, and worked for Xerox there for many years. Xerox moved me around to Massachusetts, back to New York, to Ohio, and then to Washington, D.C. So through all those years, we vacationed on Cape Cod, we vacationed on Long Island, vacationed on the Jersey Shore, we vacationed on the eastern shore of Delaware. But our neighbors in Northern Virginia introduced us to Duck back in 1987. So we came down and visited them. They had just built a new house in Tuckahoe. And it was a very unique place. It was very unique back then, and we really loved it. And then over the years, we obviously came down to visit them, and they would come back up to visit us. So in 1997, attending a wedding down here for one of their daughters, I had an opportunity to buy a lot in Tuckahoe. So working it out on a napkin with a good friend of mine today, we bought the lot in Tuckahoe in 1997, and then decided to build our house in 99, 2000, still working, of course, and rented it for a couple of years. And then the retirement came up around 2007, and we knew Duck was where we wanted to retire. We did not want to retire in Northern Virginia. And we moved here in 2007, and the rest is history. Now we've been here for 17 years.
Wow. So all legitimate business takes place on a napkin.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's where great ideas are born, is written
that's
on
right.
a napkin. That's really interesting. And so when you moved here, I know you mentioned your professional career, but what kinds of things do you like to do outside of, being a mayor, or even outside of your professional career before? What are essentially your hobbies and interests?
Well, I'd had a 45-year business career, and quite honestly, I had long days, traveled a lot. So I didn't have time for a lot of hobbies, plus we had 3 children at the time to grow up and all their related sports. So, basically the only hobbies I really had time for was really racket sports. I played a lot of tennis. squash and competition squash and then racquetball. And until we moved here, basically in 2007, did not really do much golf. So we took up golf in 2007, and so over the years we've actually been golfers and no longer racquetball players or any racket sports. But I really enjoy that. But I enjoy some reading. I'm not a big reader. I enjoy television. I enjoy documentaries. I enjoy news. I'm a little bit of a political junkie. And so a year like today, like a year like this year really keeps me busy and interested.
Well, it's good to stay informed. It's important too. Not even as mayor, but just anybody. It's important to stay informed. And you say you didn't have a lot of time for hobbies necessarily, but retiring here in Duck and becoming involved in the community, what really drove you into public service?
Well, I must admit, I never really had any idea or any thought of going into public service. I mean, I had a business career, a very successful business career, and really never got involved in politics in any of the money states or towns and cities that we lived in until we got here and kind of, as we got involved there with the volunteering and then the planning board and then wanting to run for council. And I thought, I'd really like to give back to the community. I have the business background, which I think can be very beneficial in a government setting. And Duck was in a very growth mode. I mean, in 2009, we were only 7 years old. And a lot had to be done from a standpoint of the growth of the town, the infrastructure. And I just thought that this would be a really good match for my background. And I really needed an outlet. After working a business career and working long days, I really needed an outlet from a standpoint of, you can only play so much golf. And you can only watch so much television or read so many books. So it's been a great outlet for me, and I've just enjoyed the public service. And it's kind of like my second career, and I would never have thought I would have been, on the town council and the mayor for as many years as I have been. But I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I can give back to the community, and I think that's what's important.
And I do think that really shines through a lot of what you do. And just, having worked with you since I've been here, you can tell that you take a lot of pride in what you do. And I think that's evident. You said you became mayor in 2011, but I know a little bit about this, but our listeners might not. Surely, when you're not just a mayor, there are other things that you're involved in as well and have been involved with. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, as a council member, actually, over the years, I was a member of the Dare County Control Group, which is now the advisory group, and also the Government Channels Committee. But in 2017, I was actually elected to the North Carolina League of Municipalities Board of Directors, representing District 1, which is basically the 12 counties here in northeastern North Carolina, and served on that for 2 terms, 4 years, all 4 years on the Finance Committee, and the last 2 years on the Executive Committee. It was really a very rewarding experience. Met a lot of people from across the state, a lot of mayors, a lot of mayor pro temps, and a lot of other people associated with the league. And it was really a great experience. And of course, in addition to that, we belong to Duckwoods Country Club. And besides serving for president, I got elected to the board of directors at the club and also served for several terms and also became president of the club for a year or so. Over the years, I've had a lot of other activities outside of being mayor, but now I'm kind of sitting back down and just being mayor.
So when you say you're just being mayor, what is it like to be mayor? What does that involve?
I think, being a mayor of the Outer Banks is really an honor. It's prestigious. You have a lot of responsibility because you do have responsibility back to your town and back to your town employees and your stakeholders. So it's a very prestigious job, and I think it's an important job. And of course, during the emergencies, they turn to the mayor first with respect to conversations about, evacuations and curfews and that type of thing. But I've met a lot of people being mayor. A lot of people don't know, but the mayors meet once a month, and we meet once a month, and we change towns, and we discuss basically ideas, discussions, concerns, projects that we may have gotten going that others might like to share in. So it's a good sharing. And over the years, interesting, now serving 7 terms or 14 years, I've met with 3 different mayors from the different 5 towns. So over the years, basically every town has had 3 mayors during my tenure here in Duck. And we've had 2 county chairmen. He also joins us. So it's really a rewarding experience. You carry some responsibility. There's a lot of ceremonial type. Yes, you introduce people and you speak at public events. but you basically represent the town. And, I wear a lot of logo clothes because I'm very proud of Duck and very proud of what we've done. And I'd like to, in fact, advertise that. And so being mayor, I think, is a very prestigious job, but carries a lot of responsibility. And you are the number one person representing the town.
Right. And it's also interesting, too, because you spoke to working with other elected officials, but, you do represent the people in the town. And can you tell us a little bit about working as someone representing the public? What is your interaction like with that, with recognizing local issues and bringing those to the table and kind of just being proactive? And Duck is so young. We're still in a growing stage. And that's really cool to see. And I mean, you've been here since, you said, 1987?
Well, we've visited since 87.
So you've seen
lived
it.
here since 07, right?
Right. So you've seen it grow and continue to grow. So as mayor, when you recognize the growth potential of Duck and what we're capable of doing and thinking about things like the 2032 vision, what's your role in that regard?
Well, I think, as a council member, we all have equal responsibility to deal with the public and represent the public. I think we need to, in fact, collaborate, and I think we need to compromise. And, I think we need to understand the needs, the real needs of the town. And we need to balance them against, obviously, things like financials and taxes. You carry a lot of responsibility as a council member, and I certainly, without a strong council, no mayor would be successful. We've had great councils over the years. And you mentioned visioning, and I think the first time we approached that, we had the idea back in 2012 to go ahead and start our visioning process, which is a 5-year action plan. We've done that 3 times now, 2012, 2017, and 2022. And that really set the stage for where we wanted to be. It gave us the short-term goals, but also established the mission and where we want to be as a town. And I think that really laid the blueprint for a lot of the growth in infrastructure and staff and a lot of other things we've done, the projects over the years. And I think that's been very important. And I think as mayor and as council member, we'll listen to anybody. We'll take public comments. We don't respond to people. We don't debate with people there, but certainly on the outside, we're all very reachable. You can reach us by phone, by email, and they do, or in the park or in a store. But I think you've got to be just accessible to the public, and you have to understand their concerns. They may not totally agree with you all the time, but at the same time, I think you have to do what's best for the community and best for the town.
And I think it's very unique what we have here in Duck, because one of our unifying principles is an active, engaged community. And I think we have the epitome of an active and engaged community. So I do find that interesting and pretty remarkable how much people do want to be involved. And you bring up a good point. People aren't necessarily going to always agree, but I think it's great that you hear from those that don't agree, because it means that they care and they're involved. So shifting gears here, looking at your tenure as mayor, again, you've been mayor you're in your 7th term now. What would you consider some of your proudest accomplishments?
Well, I think you like to say personal accomplishments, and I think the leadership of the council over the years, I think that's one of my greatest accomplishments. But I also say that the other council members over the years, the other mayors, and obviously the town staff, have all contributed to our success. So we have made this, as you know, you now represent us all the time as a worldwide destination. I think the growth of this town since, the late 2000s, 2009, 2010, up to 2024 is just amazing. I mean, we've created quite a town here between the infrastructure that we've put in and the events. I just think that, look at accomplishments. I would say our visioning was a great accomplishment. I think the infrastructure that we've done is a great accomplishment. The last project we just raised in the road, but the sidewalks and the boardwalk, and the amphitheater, and even expanding the town hall park capabilities. And the other thing is the town staff. I think we've built the right size, and I think we've built an excellent town staff. Worked with a lot of town staff over the last 14 years. They've all been excellent. And we have a excellent town manager, great directors, and a great staff. And, our success really goes out to all of them, because, in fact, they're the ones that have to they're on the street every day. They're the ones that have to deal with making our success happen. So we can set the strategies, we can set, the direction. But I think the staff, just having the right size staff and over the years has been a great accomplishment. So, and other than that, I think just making Duck what it is today is a great accomplishment.
Conversely, let's shift gears again. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had as mayor?
I think over the years, I mean, you have challenges. I mean, over 14 years, they come and they go. I think our first beach nourishment was a major challenge from a standpoint of making it happen. We had a terrific erosion in North Duck, and working with the other towns in the county and seeing that as reality. And of course, now that we're on a schedule from a standpoint of we've done a renourishment and we'll have another one in a couple of years, I think that was a major challenge. I think financials has always been a challenge. In the early years, I would always receive letters from the state treasurer about our fund and towns our size and whether or not we had considerable resources to, in fact, to stay in business, basically. And I think that the growth of our financial success and stability over the years was a challenge, but I think now we are such a stable town, and we owe that to a lot of people, and including our town manager and all the staff. So I think, the continuing challenge. And I think the other thing is reasonable ordinances. I've always talked about reasonable ordinances. Not everybody likes what we do. But at the same time, I think to create and to maintain an eclectic community like we have, you have to have strong ordinances, and they've got to be realistic, and not everyone's going to agree, but in fact, they need to be realistic. And I think also, we've got to make sure that we have, can nurture the business environment, because that's a very important part of Duck.
And when you say Duck has an eclectic environment, I think sometimes people kind of take for granted the purpose and the intent of ordinances to really protect and preserve our environment, because it's our greatest asset.
Yes.
Is our environment here. So ordinances are definitely interesting. And I think kind of sitting and watching how council and the public interacts as far as ordinances are concerned, there's a lot of education. And I think that's kind of the bottom line for a lot of things. You guys do that really well to help the public understand why you're making these decisions. There have been many meetings where the conversation has gone on extensively, but people walk away with a greater understanding. And I don't know that you really see that anywhere else. So props to you guys for taking the time. And it, again, going back to what I said, it really shines through how much you care about Duck. Thinking about those types of things and what's important. We've talked about visioning, and I've mentioned that in several episodes beforehand as well. But what are your core values? Do you kind of have a personal vision that you have, or core values that you have to help you as mayor?
I guess from my business career, I carry a lot of values, personal values. I was always known as kind of the organization man, and basically in every position I ever had, I was in a leadership position. Yeah, I'm very results oriented. I think I'm very fair and ethical, honest. I think you've got to have integrity. In fact, you got to be able to compromise. You got to be able to communicate. I think there's a lot of things that, in fact, go into being a leader. And as a mayor, you basically are the leader. It all really kind of points to you. And so I think, my core values are basically just being, the leader every day, and basically listening to people and communicating effectively.
So out of those, what would you say is the most important quality as a leader to possess?
I think probably the ability to lead and develop people. Because I think, basically you are the lead, and you really set the tone. So I think basically it's overall leadership is the most important quality that you need. And then all the others then just fit into that as being a leader.
That all kind of falls into place. As a leader, say someone's thinking about becoming a mayor, or they're interested in becoming more involved in local government, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you could give to someone interested in pursuing that?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think people get there different ways. Obviously, some want to be in public their whole life, and they, in fact, educate themselves that way. But if you're coming in at later life, I think it's getting involved in the local politics and local town activities, and then growing from there, and then studying and attending meetings, basically volunteering, attending meetings, and then making yourself available for appointments. And if you want to be an appointed or an elected official, if you want to work in the environment, obviously education is important, and opportunities, and but there's different paths to get there, and certainly many of our knowing all of our mayors today, they all came from diverse backgrounds. I don't think any mayor really across the Outer Banks and the ones I've known basically had said, "Gee, I really want to be mayor. I don't want to do what I'm doing today." They're all doing other things to become mayors.
So it sounds like the bottom line is involvement.
That's right.
Just you got to start somewhere, whether it's volunteering or looking to becoming a board member at some capacity. Right. Have all the other mayors, have they kind of had a similar trajectory as far as becoming mayor like you?
I think there is, all the other mayors have different backgrounds. One was a former police chief. One was, basically an architect. They come, one owned a restaurant. They come from different backgrounds, but I think they all want to serve their communities. They all want to be involved. And of course, we're unique because the other mayors on the Outer Banks all run for as mayor. And here, we run for council, and council elects mayor. And I personally like that because, in fact, if you have 2 or 3 good people running for mayor, one's going to become the mayor, and the other 2 would probably be good council members, but they're going to have to run again in 2 or 4 years, whereby we elect 5 good people and let those 5 people pick their leader and then go from there. And it's similar to the way the Board of Commissioners work, where they pick the chairman. And I just think it's better for us. Probably the only thing over time that would probably be easier for us, but it would be if we had some staggered terms, because everybody has to turn around and run every 2 years. So you go through your first year, and then you're thinking about running again for another year. And if we had some staggered terms, I think over time that might be a little bit better. But that would all have to be worked out from a standpoint of our charter and how we approached it.
Right. So, again, you've been mayor for seven terms now. What would you like for your legacy as mayor to be?
I think I'd like to be recognized that I served, the town well with honor and dignity and prestige, and that in fact I helped to make Duck what it is today. I think it's, my legacy was really to be determined by others, but I'd like to be, known as being, an effective leader and someone that really took Duck from being a young and mature town to basically a worldwide destination. And I had a lot of help doing that, a lot of great councils and great town staff. But I think that would be, if I had to say what is my legacy, that people would respect me as for my leadership of what I did for the town over the last, 14 years.
Mm-hmm. You've got quite the resume, so so I'm sure that's something that I know I can speak for myself, and I think I speak for all of staff here that we do, respect all that you've done, and it's fun to work here. It's fun to do these things, and Duck is a very ambitious town, and it's very fun to work with a council that embodies that.
I think one of the interesting things is, and we just had a recent tax increase, and we got no pushback, and I think as a town, we really give value to our residents, our non-resident property owners, our businesses, and our visitors. And I think that all goes out to basically the council and the staff. I think we give a great benefit to everyone, and I think that's our reputation. And I think that, in fact, people respect that. And everybody wants to be associated with Duck. And you control social media, and the hits you get on those social media accounts. And I just think, being associated with it and being a part of it, does us all well, and we all enjoy it.
People have a lot of pride in the town, and I think that starts from the get-go.
Yes.
From when before the town even incorporated, people were very passionate about Duck from the get-go. So again, props to you guys for continuing that through. You would think that something like that, it would kind of taper off over time when there was this big push for the town to incorporate. And then it happens. You might think that it would have tapered off, but quite the opposite.
Every once in a while, I sit back and think, if we had not incorporated in 2002, what would Duck be like today?
Mm-hmm.
And, we'd be sitting probably in the aisle of Food Land right now. But, beyond the Food Land story, but, the development probably would not have been controlled. And it wouldn't be the unique place that it is today. And today, as you go through town and with our it's just the whole layout of the town and the eclectic feel, we did it right.
We did. You guys did. And I'm proud to say that we work with you guys. And we've said it in other episodes too, but there's a very specifically curated duck experience. All of it works together to maintain that and sustain that. So it's been an honor to be able to talk to you in this regard and get some insight from your role as mayor and know the ins and outs of what you've done. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Just in closing, I guess, once again, thank you for having the podcast. Thank you for everything you do for the town. To make sure that, we give due recognition to all of the past mayors and council members that have also served the town well and continue to serve the town well. And of course, above all, basically our town staff, and including the police and fire and ocean rescue, but everyone that they get dedicated and work hard. And a shout out to them, and just a big thank you to all the town staff and our great town manager for everything that happens every day.
We certainly got a good bunch here.
Yes, we do.
If I do say so.
I would agree with that.
Alrighty, well, thank you again for being here, and thank you for listening to the Sitting Duck podcast. Make sure you like this episode, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and that way you'll know when all the new episodes come out. And then share this episode as well as our podcast on your social media platforms. The more people that know about it, the better. And for the latest on what's happening around the town of Duck, please visit townofduck.com.